To make a difference. Those words, better than any others, describe Bob Josserand, the 1998 Golden Spur recipient. Those who know Bob Josserand know he's a man of action, a bold and commanding presence with little patience for idle talk or idle minds or idle hands. For Bob Josserand, making a difference is a day-in, day-out ethic, a driving force in his decisions and an underlying thread woven throughout his life. It's likely that Bob had no idea what would happen that day back in 1978 when he boarded an airplane to Chicago to attend his first Beef Industry Council meeting. He was already a successful cattleman, schooled in the hard-knocks classroom of state politics and cattle organization policy. He had already shown an ability to work with people, to apply his considerable energy and strong personality to make a difference in whatever he took on. But what he found when he got to Chicago gave him pause. As Bob remembers, he was appalled at the pitiful way the industry was responding to the overwhelming need for funds to promote its product and defend itself from attacks by radical groups. If Bob Josserand is anything, he's a big thinker, the kind of man who won't and can't sit still when there's work to be done. So, in typical Bob Josserand fashion, he set out to make a difference. And make a difference he did. From 1981 to 1985, while the beef checkoff was still a voluntary effort, he is credited with increasing collections from $2.8 million to $13.7 million, and in putting wind beneath the wings of beef promotion and research efforts that are sustained to this day. Here's John Houston, Executive Vice President of the Center for Consumer Marketing with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the offspring of the merger between NCA and the BIC of the Meat Board.
In 1980, following the defeat of the second referendum, many beef industry leaders were really discouraged. But Bob Josserand, as chair of the National Beef Promotion Committee, at a specially called meeting in Kansas City, challenged the leaders of the 38 state beef councils and the Beef Industry Council. He called them to oneness of effort to increase state checkoffs and invest more in national programs. It was amazing. In just literally about 4 years, the total state checkoff dollars increased threefold, and the states doubled their investment in a coordinated national program. It's been my observation over the years that when Bob Josserand chooses to get involved, good things happen.
At the same time Bob was making things happen in Chicago, he was in the thick of the fight back in Texas as president of the Texas Cattle Feeders Association in 1985. That was a historic year for cattle feeding country. Feed yards produced a record 5 million head, and Bob presented steaks from the record-breaking steer to Governor Mark White. His dual roles as BIC leader and TCFA president merged as the industry considered adopting a mandatory $1 per head checkoff. Bob helped tirelessly with the campaign for the checkoff and saw his efforts bear fruit in 1988 when cattlemen voted overwhelmingly to adopt the idea. At the time Bob was TCFA president, two national organizations represented cattlemen: the Beef Industry Council of the Meat Board on the promotion, advertising, and beef research side, and the National Cattlemen's Association on the legislative and policy side. His efforts on the checkoff helped put the beef industry in a position for the first time to mount an aggressive and proactive campaign. Now, Bob decided it was time to turn his efforts to the legislative and policy efforts of the beef industry. And in typical Bob Josserand fashion, he set out once again to make a difference. In 1986, Bob became NCA vice president, and in 1989 he became NCA president. Showing his flair for the dramatic, he appeared at his inaugural speech with an old pair of post-hole diggers. Using the post-hole diggers as an example, Bob publicly proclaimed what had privately been a driving force throughout his life: you can make a difference. Here's John Lacey, a fellow NCA officer.
It was my good luck to serve as president-elect of NCA in 1989, the year Bob Josserand was president. That was a major learning experience for me, since I got to observe firsthand how Bob made a difference. Make that plural because he made several differences for NCA and our industry. First, he clearly identified three major issues: the environment, food safety, and animal welfare. To this day, nearly every industry leader still quotes those major issues. Second, it was in 1989 that the European community proposed the hormone ban on U.S. beef. In an attempt to head it off, Bob packed up and went to Europe for head-on meetings with top EC officials and the European media. His message was short and emphatic. This proposed ban is a political issue, not a health issue, and our association still takes that stand. Third, Bob recognized the need for more political involvement by NCA, and thus in 1989 was the architect of NCA PAC 500. Since then, NCA PAC has become one of the top 5 agribusiness PACs in the nation, and NCA has become a stronger political force because of Bob's involvement. Bob, congratulations, and I'll help you dig post holes any day.
Bob Josserand, imposing and commanding industry leader with the political savvy to go head-to-head with the most powerful politicians in office. The ability to give the beef industry bold and effective leadership at a time when it needed it most. It seems he was destined for greatness from the very beginning. Robert Douglas Josserand was born in Pratt, Kansas, the son of a successful and politically well-connected cattle trader and farmer. Bob became active in the Boy Scouts, rising to the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest and most difficult level. Even as a youngster, it seems, he enjoyed taking on a challenge. College found him headed west to Fort Collins, Colorado, and Colorado A&M University, where he obtained a degree in animal husbandry in 1953. Bob graduated from college as the Korean War was raging and shortly found himself wearing the uniform of an Air Force officer stationed in Pleasanton, California. It was there that he met his wife, Nancy. Nancy Peterson had grown up in Loveland, Colorado, less than 15 miles from where Bob went to college. In all the years they lived so close, they never crossed paths. However, Nancy found herself in Oakland attending Mills College. Coincidentally, a high school acquaintance of Bob's also attended Mills and introduced the two. They married in Loveland. Bob didn't have any job prospects following his discharge from the Air Force, and Nancy wanted to return to Colorado, so they landed in Springfield in the far southeastern tip of the state, where Bob was the assistant county agent. Shortly, he became the county agent in Julesburg and began to learn about the industry that would benefit so much from his efforts, cattle feeding. At the time, however, Bob didn't have any strong aspirations to become a cattle feeder. When it became difficult to raise a family on a county agent's pay, he went to work for a local cattleman, assisting with his cow-calf operation in a small growing yard. After several years, an opportunity arose with a bank in Julesburg, and Bob put on the coat and tie of a small-town banker. A particularly formative experience was Bob's appointment by Governor John Love as one of 6 highway commissioners in Colorado, an appointment resulting from his growing involvement in politics. He received some early and important experiences in working with a lot of different people on such issues as the Eisenhower Tunnel and a new Interstate 25 through the state. Those early political experiences firmly fixed in Bob's mind the importance of being involved in the political process, something he's done his entire life. And his political savvy and involvement have benefited cattlemen nationwide. Here's the Honorable Bob Dole, former senator from Kansas.
It's a real pleasure to recognize Bob Josserand for receiving the Golden Spur Award. We have similar roots and a long-standing family friendship, and his family and mine go way, way back in the great state of Kansas. It was after I became a U.S. Senator that I really learned and observed firsthand Bob's contribution to the beef industry. He was well known in the halls of Congress. He was welcome in the Capitol and the offices of members of Congress because they knew he was knowledgeable, credible, and he placed the same high priority on the public interest as he did on the cattlemen's. That's the kind of credible information that members of Congress appreciate and the kind of leadership the beef industry needs. Bob, congratulations and best wishes.
Bob was enjoying and learning from his banking experiences and was making a name for himself in Colorado politics. But the twists of fate again swirled, this time in the form of a southwest Kansas family who needed an aggressive manager to develop their farming and cattle operations. They found who they were looking for in Bob Josserand. Under his management, 3 10,000-head feed yards were built, designed as backgrounding yards to utilize the crops from the developing irrigated farming operation. He quickly became involved and made a difference in the Kansas Livestock Association, where he took an active role in developing the group's Cattle Feeders Council. As word spread of the successful young man's ability to get things done, once again opportunity came knocking, this time from Far Better Feeds, which needed a regional manager in their Hereford, Texas office. Was Bob interested? You bet he was. So he, Nancy, and their 4 children packed up and moved to the Texas Panhandle in 1971. At long last, Bob Josserand found his home. Bob was with FAR for only 18 months, but he set records in plant production, sales, and profitability. And he got noticed. While at Far Better Feeds, Bob's forthright style and business acumen caught the attention of many early cattle feeders who were turning the Hereford area into the cattle feeding capital of the world. Among those who noticed were the owners of a company called ProChemco, an oil and gas company. ProChemco had branched out into the growing cattle feeding industry in a big way and found themselves in need of a go-getter to run their cattle division. Bob Josserand fit the job description to a T. He became president of Pro Cattle Company in 1973 with responsibility for 5 feed yards with 200,000 head capacity, plus more than 1 million acres of ranch land scattered throughout the western United States. In less than 20 years, Bob had come from an assistant county agent to head one of the largest cattle operations in the world. But if fate is kind, it can also be cruel. He began with Pro Cattle Company just as the wreck of the early 70s was beginning. Looking back on that experience, Bob says he wore out every motivational tape he could find while driving from Hereford to Amarillo and back every day. Bob came out of the wreck with 200,000 head capacity of empty pens and no money to fill them up. But in typical Bob Josserand fashion, he set to work and soon the company was in the black. Before long, ProChemco merged with a similar company known as AZL Resources. The move added more feed yards and ranch land in addition to their oil and gas holdings, and soon they were bought out by a larger oil and gas company. The new owners wanted to sell the cattle division and gave Bob first chance. Seeing a dream come true before his eyes, he gathered up all the money he had, found some business partners, and Aztec's Cattle Company was born. Over the years, Bob bought out his business partners, and now Aztec's Cattle Company is a family-owned business with 6 feed yards in 4 states with a one-time feeding capacity of 247,000 head, making it the 5th largest cattle feeding operation in the nation. Bob heads the operation with sons John and Barry providing the day-to-day management. Until recently, daughter Joan was actively involved in the business. Following his whirlwind year as NCA president, he returned to Hereford and Aztec's Cattle Company. But he didn't come back with the idea of quietly setting aside while the action went on around him. He's simply not made that way. It didn't take long to begin making a difference in the lives of his friends and neighbors in the small agricultural town. He ran for mayor in 1993 and won hands down. He says he ran for mayor because he had paid his dues in state and national cattle organizations but had never done anything for the community that helped him and Nancy raise their 4 children and exhibited so much love and concern when their oldest son, Doug, was killed in a boating accident. Don Compton, manager of the Hereford Chamber of Commerce, has seen firsthand the difference that Bob Josserand has made in his community.
Bob Josserand has been mayor of Hereford since 1993. He has been very instrumental in producing a better quality of life for citizens of Hereford, such as the building of a new aquatic center and park, the improvement of all of our city parks, and instigating in bringing a 6-screen movie complex to Hereford. Bob has been a vital part of Hereford's economic growth as a member of the Hereford Economic Development Corporation Board. He has been a very positive leader who has a genuine concern and interest for the citizens he represents. Bob is a proponent of and large contributor to many charitable organizations in Hereford, such as the American Cancer Society. He is a great family man with a family business, of which both are extremely vital and positive parts of Deaf Smith County. Bob Josserand makes a very positive difference.
But Bob hasn't totally relinquished his leadership in the cattle industry, not by a long shot. He was elected president of the International Livestock Congress and has helped bring the group into worldwide prominence as a forum for cattlemen everywhere to address issues. However, Bob and Nancy are finding more time to be together, enjoying each other and the chance to travel and see some sights. But perhaps most importantly, Bob is making a difference in the lives of 8 very special youngsters, his grandchildren. Family is all important to Bob and Nancy, and if he's hanging around home a little more nowadays or riding horseback in the New Mexico mountains one-on-one with each one, it's because he intends to make sure his grandchildren understand that they are very important to their grandparents. To make a difference. Bob Josserand didn't originate the phrase, but he almost single-handedly ingrained it in the vocabulary of the beef industry through his words, through his actions, and through the legacy he leaves for others to follow. In Bob's mind, it's a simple philosophy. I believe we're all here for a purpose on this earth, and one of them is to try to make a difference in the lives of others, he says. And he has certainly done that. And cattlemen everywhere are better for it.